At 5:17 local time, the surface search radar begins to act differently. It is not a random jump, not interference, not background clutter. It is a clean return. On the bridge, silence settles in. At first, the track remains steady, slow, almost measured. Then the data starts to change. Speed climbs. Bearing tightens. The contact is no longer simply moving across the display. It is lining up. Surface contact, new acceleration. The words sound ordinary, written down like any other entry. But metal does not move that way by coincidence. The sea is calm. The horizon looks empty. To the naked eye, nothing appears different. But inside the ship, the systems are already telling another story. The contact is closing from the forward sector. Its course now runs almost directly against the carrier's heading. Range decreases in quiet, exact steps. Closest point of approach updates, then updates again. Each number is smaller than the last. No AIS. No answer to the first call. No visible course change. On the flight deck, crews hesitate in the middle of their work. Not because an alarm has sounded, it has not. They pause because of timing. People who work around carrier operations know the feeling. A moment stops being routine and suddenly it has direction. The contact keeps accelerating, 20 knots, then 24. That is when the watch officer looks up from the console. Not startled, focused. Recommend logging for hazardous maneuvering. The captain does not raise his voice. He does not have to. His eyes stay fixed on the display, watching two sets of vectors move toward a meeting point that should not exist. A naval vessel does not drive straight toward a carrier formation without a reason. Even the reckless understand that. Unless being noticed is part of the point. The first bridge-to-bridge call goes out. Clear, professional, calm, no response. A second call follows. Again, nothing. Through long-range optics, the silhouette begins to sharpen. Small hull, naval profile. Too clean to be civilian, too deliberate to be lost. Unidentified surface contact. For now, that is the label. Inside the Combat Information Center, the track is given higher priority. Sensors shift attention. Still, nothing crosses the line. No precision lock radar. No sudden system change suggesting immediate action. But the geometry speaks for itself. The vessel is not shadowing. It is not matching pace. It is moving directly into the carrier's path. Distance keeps falling. At this range, one wrong move becomes an incident becomes a headline, and a headline becomes something no one can easily undo. Still, no flags. Still, no reply. Still closing. The carrier holds course. That choice is deliberate. A course change sends a message, and messages at sea can be misread. Sometimes the safest move is to remain steady and make the other side reveal its purpose. The contact reveals nothing. On the bridge wing, binoculars rise. The hull cuts cleanly through the water. Its wake widens as speed increases again. The bow lifts just enough to show hard throttle. This is not drift. This is not curiosity. This is an approach. A quiet order moves through the ship. Not shouted, not broadcast, just passed with discipline. Stations adjust. Systems move from passive observation to active tracking. Everything remains controlled. Everything remains within procedure. The contact is now inside the zone where intent matters more than capability. Another call goes unanswered. Then, at last, something changes. The radar suite aboard the approaching vessel comes alive. Not a precision lock mode. Search mode, but active. That detail is logged instantly. Time-stamped. Saved. Electronic signals do not bluff, even when people do. Passive observation is over. The other vessel is now looking back, measuring, confirming what it already knows. They see the carrier, they see the escorts, and they continue forward. On the bridge, the captain gives one small nod. Maintain course. Record everything. No warnings. No dramatic language. No escalation. Just documentation. The range closes to the point where every movement is deliberate. The water between the two vessels narrows into a strip that no longer feels neutral. This is the moment when coincidence stops being convincing. The contact holds speed. Still no response. Whatever happens next will not be a misunderstanding. It will be a decision made in full view, under full observation, with every sensor awake and recording. And for the first time since the contact appeared, everyone on the bridge understands the same thing. This vessel did not drift into the carrier formation. It aimed for it. At 0524, the classification changes, not because of instinct, but because of data. The surface contact's profile resolves clearly through long-range optics. Hull shape, mast layout, mounted systems, overall configuration. The silhouette matches known naval architecture. Not a patrol boat, not a civilian vessel pulled into official use. This is purpose-built steel, nationality confirmed. Iranian. The confirmation moves through the ship without ceremony, no reaction, no commentary. Just another line added to the record. Flags do not change physics, they do not change procedure either, but they change the meaning of everything around them. From this moment forward, every second carries more weight. The Iranian naval vessel does not slow down. Its bow presses harder into the water as the throttle holds steady. The wake spreads wide behind it, confident and controlled. This is not the signature of a vessel drifting with the sea. This is a vessel being driven with purpose. On the forward deck, movement becomes visible. Figures shift position. They spread out. Their hands settle in places where hands do not usually rest during routine transit. Still, there is no answer to the calls. That silence is not random. Naval crews are trained to respond over radio, even during tense encounters. Silence at sea can be its own message. It says the signal has already been sent, and the reply may come through movement instead of words. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tracking cycle tightens. Bearings update more quickly. Range markers narrow. Closest point of approach is calculated again. Smaller. The Iranian vessel's radar signature grows sharper. Power increases. The sweep tightens. It is still not a final targeting mode, but it has moved closer to that line. The difference is subtle. To trained operators, it is not subtle at all. This is no longer simple awareness. This is measurement, distance, speed, alignment. The approaching vessel is gathering the details it needs to shape the encounter. On the carrier's bridge, the captain remains motionless. He watches the plot, not the horizon. The plot does not blink. It tells a story the human eye cannot. A ship that keeps closing while bringing its radar systems up knows exactly what it is doing. Another call goes out. Calm, direct, no reply. The carrier strike group does not break formation. Escorts hold their spacing. Discipline remains intact. There is strength in not reacting too soon. Sudden movement creates room for miscalculation. Predictability in this moment is the safest geometry. It also becomes pressure. The Iranian vessel is now well inside a range where its behavior cannot be described as coincidence. If this were a navigation mistake, it would have corrected by now. If this were confusion, a radio response would have come. Neither happens. The intent is becoming clearer. On deck, long-range cameras record every second. The timestamp keeps moving forward. This footage may never appear on a screen for the public, but it will matter later when questions are asked and versions of events begin to change. Then the forward mount on the Iranian vessel shifts. Only a few degrees, not enough to commit, enough to be noticed. That movement is logged immediately. On the American side, no systems mirror the gesture. No mounts turn, no defensive systems visibly come alive. Restraint is not hesitation, it is discipline. And discipline has its own kind of force. Inside the CIC, a quiet exchange confirms what everyone already understands. This is no longer shadowing. Agreed. Shadowing stays parallel. Shadowing keeps distance. Shadowing answers radio calls. This is something else. The helicopter detachment is notified, but not launched. Pilots move to standby. Helmets are clipped. Rotors remain still. Presence is prepared, not displayed. There is no rush. The encounter has not crossed that threshold yet. The Iranian vessel holds speed, then climbs again, 26 knots. That pushes it close to the edge of its comfortable operating range. In these conditions, it is spending fuel to stay on this line. Spending margin, spending options. From above, the geometry is unmistakable. One vessel pressing forward, one formation holding steady. Every mile closed without a response tightens the story. Not around the carrier, but around the version of events the approaching vessel may want to create. If they turn away now, the record will show everything. If they keep coming, the record will show even more. The Iranian radar sweeps again, stronger this time. The electronic warfare team records frequency, pattern, and dwell time. Every signal is captured, sorted, and archived. Information is building faster than tension, and information lasts longer. The sea remains calm. The sky stays clear. Nothing breaks open, nothing launches, nothing flashes across the water. But intent has moved from unclear to undeniable. On the bridge, the captain finally speaks. Not louder, not sharper, just precise. Maintain course, continue recording. Because whatever happens next, this moment will define it. The approach is no longer a question. IA. It is a decision still unfolding. At 5:31, the geometry tightens beyond the acceptable margin. The Iranian vessel continues closing, now well inside the range where reaction time begins to matter more than intent. At this distance, even a small course correction has meaning. Every degree is noticed. Every knot is read. Closest point of approach updates again, smaller. The movement is no longer simply forward, it is controlled. The Iranian vessel adjusts heading just enough to keep the carrier directly ahead. Not parallel, not offset, straight in. That adjustment is logged. Inside the Combat Information Center, the track is upgraded again. Sensors stop treating the contact as ordinary traffic and begin treating it as an active maneuvering vessel. The system does not need to assume aggression. It only needs to recognize that the other ship is now shaping the encounter on purpose. The Iranian radar emissions rise again. More power, tighter sweep, faster repetition. Still not a final lock, but close enough for every operator in the room to understand the message. This is the stage where intent stops being guessed and starts becoming measurable. On the bridge, the carrier's speed does not change. Its course remains steady. This is not stubbornness. It is control. A third call is sent out, shorter this time, sharper and more direct. Silence. But now that silence feels different. Earlier, it left room for uncertainty. Now it creates pressure. The Iranian vessel is no longer simply missing the radio calls. It is choosing not to answer them. That difference matters. On the forward deck of the Iranian vessel, movement increases. Crew members spread out. Some move closer to the rail. They are not relaxed and they are not rushing. They look prepared. The forward mount remains unattended, but visible. It is not activated, yet it is clearly being shown. That choice is recorded. At 0534, the carrier's helicopter detachment receives the signal. Stand by to launch. No sirens, no public announcement, just movement. Pilots step onto the deck. Rotor crews move with practiced precision. The blades remain still for the moment. The aircraft does not lift yet. And that matters too. Not launching is just as intentional as launching. It says one thing clearly: prepared, not provoked. The Iranian vessel keeps closing. The distance now shrinks so quickly that the plot updates almost feel continuous. Closest point of approach is no longer an abstract calculation. It is becoming immediate. Inside the Combat Information Center, a calm voice cuts through the rhythm of data. Contact is maintaining intercept geometry. That phrase carries weight. It means the approach is being managed on purpose. It means someone on the other bridge is watching the same numbers and choosing not to break the line. Then the helicopter begins to spin up, not rushed, not dramatic, measured. Rotor wash rolls across the deck, lifting spray and sending a clear visual signal across the water. This is not an overflight. It is not intimidation. It is presence, controlled and unmistakable. The helicopter lifts and holds low, offset from the main formation. It stays inside American formation space. It does not move toward the Iranian vessel. It does not point anything at it. Cameras come online, sensors settle in. The aircraft becomes another part of the record. The Iranian radar responds. Another sweep, slightly faster, slightly stronger, logged. From the helicopter's optics, the Iranian bridge is now clearly visible. Reflective windows, figures inside. The vessel's course remains unchanged. No flags, no light signals, no reply. The carrier group still avoids anything that could be presented as escalation. No speed change, no turn, no visible system movement. That restraint increases the pressure more than any sharp maneuver could. At 5:38, the Iranian vessel reaches the edge of the invisible line where explanations begin to fall apart. At this point, any major incident would need a story the data would not support. Then the helicopter's optical marker activates, not to damage, not to provoke. A steady green point settles briefly across the Iranian bridge windows. Non-aggressive, controlled, and impossible to miss. A message without sound. The broadcast follows. Calm, clear, recorded. You are operating unsafely. Alter course immediately. Repeated in English, then in Farsi. For the first time, movement on the Iranian bridge changes. Figures shift. One person steps forward, another turns away from the glass. Behind the vessel, the wake shortens slightly. Not enough to disengage, enough to show hesitation. The encounter has reached its highest point. Nothing has been launched. Nothing has crossed the final line. No rule has been broken, but everything has narrowed to one question. Who steps back first? And at this distance, stepping back is not weakness. It is survival. At 0542, the first real change appears. Not a turn, not a radio reply, a reduction in wake. It is subtle, almost invisible unless someone is watching closely. But the helicopter's sensors catch it immediately. The white water behind the Iranian vessel shortens. Throttle eases. Speed begins to fall. 26 knots becomes 24. That drop is logged. The course has not changed yet. The bow still points toward the carrier group, but the force in the water is different now. This is no longer a hard approach. It is a search for a way out, a way to disengage without making it look like a retreat. On the Iranian deck, personnel begin moving back from the rail. One figure steps away from the forward mount, another turns inward and disappears below the bridge line. These movements are not dramatic. They are protective. The helicopter holds position. No advance, no pursuit. Its presence remains steady and watchful. Cameras continue recording. The green marker stays off now. The message has already been delivered. At 5:44, the Iranian vessel reduces speed again, 22 knots. The bow dips slightly as pressure against the hull begins to ease. The wake narrows. The strip of water between the ships is no longer shrinking with the same intensity. It begins slowly to stabilize. This is the break point. On the carrier's bridge, no one celebrates, no one speaks. Moments like this are delicate. Pressure is not released until separation is real, visible, and confirmed by data. Then the Iranian vessel makes its first lateral correction. 2 degrees, then 3. A slow shift away from the carrier's center line, so subtle it almost looks reluctant. That heading change is recorded with the same precision as the earlier acceleration. It matters just as much. For the first time since the contact appeared, the geometry is no longer an intercept. It becomes a near-parallel track. Still close, still visible, but no longer closing. Then the radio finally comes alive. A voice comes through, formal and carefully controlled. United States naval vessel, we are conducting routine patrol operations in proximity to Iranian waters. Every word is chosen carefully. No apology, no admission of unsafe maneuvering, no acknowledgement of the carrier's right of passage. Just enough language to preserve position without pushing the moment further. The reply from the American bridge is immediate and exact. You are operating in international waters. Your actions are being recorded. Maintain safe separation. Nothing else. No argument, no threats, no extra language. The helicopter remains in orbit for another long minute. Not because it has to, but because staying there reinforces the message. Clarity is sometimes built through endurance. The Iranian vessel continues drifting laterally away. Distance increases little by little. Foot by foot, meter by meter. Speed drops again, 19 knots. The forward mount is now fully covered. Deck activity fades. The bridge windows reflect only sky. This is disengagement. Careful, deliberate, observed from every angle. At 0548, the closest point of approach begins to increase. That single number confirms what the visuals already suggest. The danger window is closing. The moment that could have turned into a major incident has passed. The helicopter receives the signal to withdraw. It does not rush. It climbs smoothly, banks away, and returns toward the carrier. Its sensors remain active until the last useful second. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is missed. On the Iranian vessel, one final gesture appears. A figure on deck raises an arm, palm open. A simple maritime signal. Wordless, universal. The carrier group does not answer. Professional distance is maintained. By 5:50, separation is no longer symbolic. It is measurable. 6 nautical miles and widening. The Iranian vessel now holds a steady parallel course. It is no longer pressing forward, no longer testing the line. The sea returns to stillness, but the record remains. Every radar signal, every heading change, every unanswered call, every second of silence. This was not a victory display. It was not a moment settled by force. It was an encounter resolved at the edge of escalation, where discipline mattered more than dominance. On the bridge, the captain watches the track move farther away. Then he gives a single nod. Resume normal operations. Because in this encounter, nothing crossed the final line. And that was the point. By 0602, the separation is complete. The Iranian vessel holds its parallel course, distance widening with each passing minute. Its speed is stable now. Its radar profile softens, then returns to normal maritime navigation levels. The forward deck is quiet. No visible crew topside. No movement near mounted systems. From the carrier's bridge, the track is downgraded, not forgotten, not dismissed, filed. The helicopter settles back onto the flight deck without ceremony. Rotors slow, systems are secured. But the data keeps moving long after the aircraft is still. Every second of footage, every signal pattern, every course correction is copied across internal systems, cataloged, and preserved. The encounter does not end simply because the ships separate. On the surface, the sea looks unchanged. Calm water, clear horizon, no smoke, no debris, no visible aftermath. To anyone watching from far away, it might look as if nothing happened at all. Inside the ship, no one believes that illusion. The Combat Information Center begins the quiet work that follows restraint. Timelines are rebuilt to the second. Radar sweeps are matched to optical footage. Communication logs are checked against maneuvering data. The story is assembled without emotion. And what it shows is simple. The Iranian vessel accelerated directly toward a carrier strike group. It ignored repeated calls. It activated radar systems while reducing distance. It slowed only after sustained monitoring, clear warnings, and complete documentation. No dramatic interpretation is needed. There are no celebrations on the bridge, no raised voices, no victory language. Professional crews do not celebrate moments that almost went wrong. They record the outcome, learn from it, and continue. The carrier never changed course. That detail matters. Changing course would have changed the entire picture. It would have rewritten the geometry. It would have added uncertainty, giving someone else room to describe the moment as pressure, retreat, or miscalculation. Holding course kept the burden of explanation exactly where it belonged. On the other vessel, as the Iranian ship fades into the distance, its wake flattening into the surrounding sea, the carrier group slowly returns to its internal rhythm. Aircraft operations resume. Escorts hold formation. Watch teams rotate. The day continues. It's highs. But the encounter does not disappear. In modern naval operations, restraint is not passive. It is active, it is intentional, and most importantly, it is documented. The absence of force does not mean the absence of consequence. It means the consequence moves into another domain. Not steel and impact, but records, timelines, signals, and analysis. Every Navy understands this. What happened during those 45 minutes will not be remembered for what was used. It will be remembered for what was avoided. Because in the narrow space between signaling and escalation, discipline decides the outcome. Not size, not speed, not bravado, discipline. The Iranian vessel approached as if proximity itself created leverage. It left with a different lesson. Proximity works both ways. Being watched, measured, and recorded can create more pressure than any spoken warning. The carrier group did not need dramatic statements. It did not need public gestures. It did not raise the temperature of the encounter. It allowed the facts to stand on their own. By 6:30, the contact is no longer tactically relevant. Distance has removed the urgency. The track drifts toward the edge of the display, then eventually disappears beyond the curve of the Earth. But the record remains complete. For the crew aboard the carrier, this was not an anomaly. It was a reminder. Modern naval power is not measured only by aircraft on deck or advanced systems below it. It is measured by control. Control of space, control of tempo, control of escalation. The most dangerous moment passed quietly because everyone involved understood where the line was, and one side chose not to cross it. No dramatic exchange, no visible damage, no public announcement. Just a carrier holding steady in open water, and another warship turning away with a version of events it can never fully control. That is how some confrontations end, not loudly, not with spectacle, but quietly through discipline.